Hare Krishna. Begin. Live हो गया? जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतिरवनचारि यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतिरवनचारि Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Shloka number 29. Vepatuscha sharire me Roma harshascha jayate Gandivam sramsate hastat Tvachaiva paridahyate Vepatuscha sharire me Roma harshascha jayate Gandivam sramsate hastat Tvachaiva paridahyate Vepatuscha sharire me Roma harshascha jayate Gandivam samsate hastat Tvakshaiva paridahyate. Word to word meanings. Vepatuhu, trembling of the body. Cha, also. Sharire, on the body. Me, mind. Roma harshaha, standing of hair on end. Cha, also. Jayate, is taking place. Gandivam, the bow of Arjuna. Sramsate, is slipping. Hastat, from the hand. Tvak, skin. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Paridahyate, is burning. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Sri Prabhupada. Translation. My whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Purport. There are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There is no fear in transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandiva was slipping from his hands, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to a material conception of life. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपधरामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Yatkripātam Vande Shridham Dīnatāram Brahmanam Shri Chaitanya. So, so this chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter is also called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So every name of every chapter has a name, and these names end with the word yoga, like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So this way, every chapter has different names. So yoga means union. Union of what? Union of the individual soul with the supreme soul. Union of the individual with the supreme Lord. And so there was a time when a devotee was translating the Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, and Prabhupada was there, and he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how can Vishada, lamentation, be yoga? Because karma is okay. Karma, you are uniting with the Supreme through your actions, and jnana, you are uniting with the Supreme through knowledge. You are in Bhakti Yoga, you are uniting through devotion. But how can lamentation become yoga? So isn't this a good question that the devotee had asked? So there are so many people out there going through very tough times, health problems, economic problems, social problems, family problems, political problems, so many problems. But are these problems of theirs becoming a cause of their union with the Supreme? No. And why is this? Because we are so engrossed in our problems, we are not able to surrender. We are surrendering unto everything else around us except Krishna. Whereas that is not the case with Arjuna. Arjuna has taken this opportunity. His lamentation has become a cause of his surrender unto the Supreme. So from the previous verse, we've seen the previous verse, verse number 28. We've seen the bodily symptoms of Arjuna, where he sees all his relatives on the battlefield, and now his limbs are quivering, and his mouth has become dry, and currently now his body is trembling, and his bow is slipping away, and his skin starts burning. So we see that Arjuna is starting to show signs of fear. When the emotions are so strong, we lose control of our physical faculty, we lose control of our body and our mind. So thus we can understand from this sloka how traumatic this situation is for Arjuna. His emotions are taking control of his bodily actions, and now he is expressing to Krishna how badly he is affected in this situation. So we see he's in such a pathetic state, such a bad state, that his precious bow, which is the Gandiva, even that is slipping away. So we hear a lot about this bow, talking about this bow, the Gandiva, a very famous bow. We hear about the greatness of the Gandiva from the Mahabharata. The origins and its attributes are clearly explained in the Mahabharata, and it is said that this bow was first created by Lord Brahma himself, and Lord Brahma kept it with him for 1,000 celestial years, and the bow was so great, and it was used to fight 1 lakh warriors at a single time. So that is the greatness of this bow. And it is said that this bow is specially meant to punish the wicked and the unjust. And so after Lord Brahma, it was passed on to Lord Indra, who kept it for around 3,585 years. And then he passed it on to Chandra, who kept it for another 500 years, and then to Varuna, who kept it for 100 years, and then it was gifted to Arjuna. So this is the history of the Gandiva, and because Arjuna held this bow, the Gandiva, he was also known as Gandivi. And along with this, he was also gifted 2 quivers, which could which would produce unlimited arrows. So we see the Gandiva is very dear to Arjuna, so dear that he had also taken a vow that if anyone had asked him to keep the bow down, he would annihilate that person, he would kill that person. And there is a very famous pastime in the Mahabharata, uh, where this was sometime towards the end of the war, maybe the 16th or the 17th day, uh, where Karna is on the battlefield and he's shooting arrows after arrows after arrows in all directions. It was so intense that it felt like a storm of rain of arrows falling down upon the Pandavas. So intense and so many fatalities that even Yudhishthir Maharaj himself was um, had to retreat back to his camp because of critical injuries that he had faced. And so Arjuna was still fighting, and at one point he sees that Yudhishthir Maharaj is missing from the battlefield, and then immediately his brother is missing, so he goes in search of him. He goes back to Maharaj's camp, and then he as soon as he reaches Yudhishthir, Maharaj sees him, and then he rejoices jubilantly, thinking that Arjuna had finally defeated Karna and returned back victorious. And but then Arjuna says, "Brother, I've come back just to check upon your health, nothing else." And then hearing this, Yudhishthir Maharaj becomes furious, and then he tells, "Throw that useless bow of yours away." And hearing this, uh, Arjuna remembers his vow that he would kill anyone who tells him to keep the bow down. And so, and Krishna is also there with him at the same moment. Krishna is the charioteer, and he's also, as when Arjuna returned, Krishna was there with him. And then when he heard this, he heard Yudhishthira Maharaj tell him to keep the bow down, throw the bow away. He goes for his sword. And slowly, as he was removing the sword, Krishna tells him, like, what are you doing? Are you insane? Why would you kill your own brother? And Arjuna tells him, Krishna, remember the vow that I had kept, that um, I would kill anyone who tells me to keep the bow down. And Krishna tells, stop this immediately. This is not the way to solve this matter. There are better solutions. There's a better way to do this. Stop this drama that you're doing. And Krishna tells him, instead of killing your brother, why not uh, blaspheme your brother? Because according to scriptures, it is said that uh, one who disrespects his senior is it is equivalent to killing the superior. So there is always a solution. These scriptures have a solution to every situation of ours. And so then, hearing this, Arjuna goes on a rant. He goes on blaspheming and chastising Yudhishthira Maharaj, talking about all the troubles and the pains that the uh, Pandavas had gone through. You were the reason why we were sent for we played the dice game, and you were the reason we lost everything, and you were the reason why we were insulted in the courtroom, and you were the reason why Draupadi was disrobed, and you're the reason why we are here on this battlefield now. And then hearing all this, Yudhishthira Maharaj uh, becomes very morose, hearing all this chastisement. And then seeing Yudhishthira Maharaj's condition, Arjuna, now he's also depressed. And then um, he goes for the sword again. And then Krishna tells him, what's the problem now? Why are you going for the sword now? I thought all the problems have been sorted. And then Arjuna says, I cannot live with myself after disrespecting my brother like this. I cannot live with this shame. I must kill myself immediately. And then Krishna tells him, stop at once. There is a solution for this as well. So Krishna says, one who glorifies oneself in front of his superior, it is said that it is equivalent to committing suicide. So Arjuna didn't have to kill himself. Just by glorifying oneself in front of a superior, he is committing suicide. And so then Arjuna goes on a session of self glorification. He tells Yudhishthira, I am the reason. I went to the heavenly abodes and retrieved the celestial weapons. I defeated Lord Shiva. And if we win this battle, it is because of my hard work. And so then this satiated Arjuna. Um, so we see here how great, how strong this attachment was for the Gandiva, Arjuna attachment to the Gandiva. He would go to any extent to protect it. But now on the battlefield, the situation is different. That same bow of his, that precious bow of his, is now slipping away from his hand. And so you can imagine how tough this situation is for him. His body is trembling, and um, his bodily hair is standing on end, and his skin is burning. So, from Prabhupada says here in the scriptures that in the Prabhupada that such bodily symptoms can manifest due to two reasons. One is due to great spiritual ecstasy, and the other one is due to material conditions. Material conditions here, yeah. Mm, yeah. This is. So Arjuna's symptoms, there are two kinds of trembling of the body. Such phenomena occur in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear. So this is due to our material conditions. Talking about spiritual ecstasy now in our current stage, we do a little bit of devotional service. We try to do a little bit of devotional service, and then naturally, doing devotional service, we end up going and doing material activities. But when it comes to a spiritually elevated person, it is the opposite. For some reason, he may be asked to do some material activity, but then naturally, automatically, he ends up doing devotional service. So that is different. The difference between the two cases. The devotee is he always wants to be engaged in devotional service, and at such a stage, he experiences complete bliss. And this is the explanation of the what Prabhupada says, spiritual ecstasy. Such a devotee experiences spiritual ecstasy. He is experiencing complete bliss. Whereas a materialist is enjoying the ignorance. There's a very famous verse, ignorance is bliss. So the materialist enjoys the ignorance, but a pure devotee is enlightened, and that enlightenment gives him bliss, the real bliss. And so, and people like us, we are somewhere in between the two. We have the security, which is why we're here at this temple. Like many people don't get this opportunity to come to a temple and worship the Lord like this. So we are somewhere in between. We are in a phase of struggle where we cannot go back. Now that time is long gone. So our job now is to go ahead, go marching ahead, and this can be done only by intensifying our devotional service, by begging and praying intensely to the Lord. So Prabhupada here, he's straight away concluded that Arjuna is not experiencing spiritual ecstasy. It is due to his material condition. So he was fearful about committing a crime by taking the lives of his relatives. So it is now very clear that Arjuna is in a fearful state due to his material conception of life. So, what is this material conception? A material conception is the mindset that I am not I am this body, and that everything in relationship with this body is mine. To believe that life's ultimate goal is to enjoy material pleasures through our senses. There is no there is no knowledge of spiritual science in this picture, and but one must realize that this material world is temporary. One day or the other, everything is going to end. Someday, at some point, either those things are going to leave us, or we will have to leave those things. So this state of uncertainty is what causes fear in our lives. So there is a very nice sloka in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th chapter, where the concept of fear has been properly explained. It goes like this: Vayam dvitiya vivineshata syad ishad apetasya viparya yosmatihi tanmayato buddha Abhijatam Bhaktyai Kayesham Gurudeva Tatma. So this shloka explains the concept of fear in this material world. It is said that this fear is due to the duality that we see around us. We see matter and spirit, we see good and bad, rich and poor, victory and defeat, pain and pleasure, and this is the cause of fear. And we see this is the reason is that we see everything as different from Krishna. I'm not able to see this table as Krishna. I'm not able to see this relationship between this table and Krishna. I'm not able to see the relationship of Krishna with anything around us. Even a snake, for example, we're not able to see the relationship with Krishna, and that's why we develop so much of fear to it. And so this is a real definition of fear. Such when we're not able to see the relationship of something with Krishna, we start developing fear for it. And this fear goes away when we are on the spiritual platform, where we realize that I am not this body, I am the spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi, very famous quote. And this is spiritual realization, to realize that, um, to realize the Lord, realize ourselves, and to realize our relationship with the Lord. And that relationship is that I am the servant and the Lord is the master, and my only duty is to serve the Lord. So, having this understanding, one can come out of fear. And where do we begin? By developing faith, Shraddha. The first step, Adho Shraddha, to develop faith in Krishna. For example, we see a child crossing the road. The child is holding the little finger of the father and trying to cross the road. The person takes the maximum anxiety as the father. So he has to look around left and right while crossing the road. And whereas this child, he doesn't have to worry about this. He's just looking around, Papa, look at this, look at that, look at that, look at that building. So that's what the child does. He is in complete, he's completely carefree. He has no tension, whereas the father is the one taking all the tension. So this is the situation where the child is happy, but the father takes the anxiety. But at some point, if by mistake the finger slips away, then the child is alone, and the father goes away, and the child is alone. And then you can imagine the situation. He is scared, he is petrified, and then he will naturally start crying. And this is our condition in this material world. We have lost the touch with the Lord. And so we understand, why do we fear? Because we have lost our connection with the Lord. Because we have given up that same little finger of the Lord, which held the Govardhan mountain and protected the Varajvazis and made them fearless. And so we understand that a devotee of the Lord is never fearful because he has the shelter of the Lord. So then here arises a question that Arjuna, being such a great devotee of the Lord, how did he develop this fear? He had the Lord right by his side, and this wasn't the first time he was fighting such a battle, fighting a battle. He is highly trained, highly experienced in warfare, and he had many years of intense training, such extreme levels of training, where from the Mahabharata we hear a lot of pastimes of Arjuna's training. There's one more very nice pastime from the Mahabharata where Arjuna is at the academy, the training academy of Dronacharya, and there is an instruction that is given, a standing instruction that never feed Arjuna in the dark. So that was the instruction given to every student there. So everyone was intrigued, like, why was such an instruction given to everyone? And this is when they realized one day when um, all the students had gathered together and they were having their dinner under the lamplight, and a gust of wind blows and extinguishes the flame of the lamp, and then there's no light; it becomes pitch dark. But then Arjuna is still continuing to eat, and then while eating, he thinks that, oh, I'm not able to see anything, but I'm able to eat. My hand is able to find its way to my mouth. And if I'm able to do this, then I would be able to shoot arrows also in the dark. And that was the end of his sleep. So he would never sleep after that. He would practice throughout the day, he would have his meal, and then he would continue practicing in the night. And so this is how Arjuna got the title also, Gurakesha, one who has conquered his sleep. So just you can imagine how experienced he was. From his childhood, he's been training, and he was the perfect. He was one of the world's best archers, and so literally shooting arrows were at his fingertips. So this was how good he was at it. So then, from where did this fear arise? So this fear arise. The answer is fear arise. This fear arise as a part of Krishna's plan. So everything that happens in the scriptures are pastimes of the Lord, where even if the qualities of an exalted devotee are all part of the pastimes of the Lord. And so this illusion also which Arjuna was going through was also part of Krishna's plan. And what is the reason for Arjuna being put into this illusion? The reason is that it gave Krishna the perfect opportunity to convey the message of the Bhagavad Gita to all of us. So through Arjuna's lamentation, through Arjuna's illusion, Krishna set up a scene where the message of the Bhagavad Gita could be passed on to us through Arjuna so that we could perfect our lives. So this is what Lord did everything possible. It is all planned from the beginning. The entire setup was done by the Lord just to pass on the message of the Bhagavad Gita. So we see that Arjuna has been put into this illusion by the Yogamaya potency of the Lord and brought to this material platform. A devotee is on the spiritual platform, but now Arjuna has been brought down to the spiritual platform just to get the message of the Bhagavad Gita conveyed. And so in this material platform, Arjuna uses terms like Swajana, my people. So on the material platform, we see that our primary attachments are to our body, to the wife, the children, our neighbors, our countrymen, etc. So our nation. So this is how it goes. So now Arjuna is also identifying his body with the other warriors. So his mind and his body have been completely paralyzed by the attacks of his emotions. He is now completely confused, and then he is asking Lord Krishna, "What do I do now?" So the lesson learned here is that even great personalities like Arjuna can be put into this illusion. They can be put into fear. Then what is our situation? How can we consider ourselves to be safe? So Arjuna is going through this internal conflict between his attachment to his people and his duty as a Kshatriya. As a Kshatriya, his primary duty is to establish dharma, to protect his people from harm. It is there in the word Kshatriya. Shat means injury, and Traya means to protect. So Arjuna's primary duty was to protect his people from the evil atrocities of Duryodhan and the other Kauravas. But currently, he has an attachment to his people, not just to his people, to the people of the other army as well. Like even after going through so much trouble, so much torture, so much insults, and so much chastisement, still he has an attachment because his attachment is superseding his duty. So the lesson learned here is that our attachments deny us from taking rational decisions. So similarly, in our personal lives, also we may go through such this tug of war between our attachments and our duty. For example, our attachment to sleep will stop us from waking up early in the morning and attending Mangalarti. Our attachment to prasadam will stop us from attending our morning programs. And the duty of a student is to study, but then his attachment to playing will stop him from doing his studies. So these are just a few examples to understand how how our attachments will stop us from following taking up our duties. And all this, we must understand that all this is just for temporary enjoyment, not knowing that all this enjoyment that we're doing will not last long. There is always an end to it. So one must be aware of these conflicts that happen between our attachments and our duties. We must be able to differentiate between the two in our day-to-day activities. And so the Bhagavad Gita is here to help us develop that detachment from such temporary sources of material enjoyment to stop us from making mistakes. Why is the Bhagavad Gita glorified so much? Because by studying, by understanding, by applying and practicing the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, we will be able to respond to any situation with tolerance. We will be able to develop detachment from those material enjoyment, sources of material enjoyment. The Acharyas say that the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to demonstrate the need for spiritual knowledge. So, why do we need spiritual knowledge? This is because when one is on this material plane, on this bodily platform, eventually at some point or the other, we will get bewildered by the attacks of the material nature. To stay away from such bewilderment, we must rise to a higher level of consciousness. To rise to a higher level of consciousness, one requires spiritual knowledge, and to require spiritual knowledge, one requires the qualifications to receive this knowledge. What are these qualifications to receive the knowledge? Prabhupada has already explained this in the previous verse. Those four qualities are soft heartedness, thoughtfulness, compassion, and submission. And Arjuna had all these four qualities. Of all these four qualities, we know the most important is the submission, to be submissive unto the Lord. And then we can because we are submissive, we may we will be able to surrender unto Lord. That is why Arjuna was able to surrender immediately to the Lord, and this made him the perfect candidate to receive the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna Vishada, his lamentation became the cause of um, his surrender unto the Lord, and this was only possible because of his submissive nature. So even if one has all the other qualities, soft-heartedness, compassion, and thoughtfulness, if he is not submissive, he will not be able to surrender unto the Lord. At some point, we will be bewildered by the onslaughts of the material nature. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, they are our eternal material companions. We must find a solution to overcome these problems of life, birth, death, old age, or disease. Else, we will not be able to escape from the bewilderment that follows the attack of the material nature. So, going to the verse. Um, so Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. So this is the greatest fear that all people have in this material world, the fear of death. And we see that even a small worm that is on the ground, when we touch it, it starts wriggling away out of fear. So this is the condition with all of us. We have the fear of death. And why is there so much of fear? Because we are completely convinced that we are this body, and that if anything happens to us, our body, we are going to get affected, not knowing that we are the soul, the entity that exists within. And so we are not interested um, in leaving this body. People experience extreme pain during the time of death, and this fear of death is due to the loss of all the things that has been achieved in life. So, in actual, it is the actual reason for the pain. So, according to scriptures, it is said that the pain that a person goes through during the time of death is equivalent to the biting of 40,000 scorpions. So, that is how painful death is to, especially a materialist. It is so painful. So much of pain that and this is only for a person who hasn't realized God. It's eternally, there is this very famous phrase that such and such person has passed away peacefully, but there is no such situation of death for a person who hasn't realized God. Externally, one may look peaceful, but the actual fight is internal. He's going through a tug of war between the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamudutas, like we heard in the pastime of Ajamala. So externally, one may look peaceful, but internally there is a soul which is crying out of pain, and this pain is due to the thought of losing one's people, one's possessions, one's achievements, and that is why the soul goes through so much of pain. For example, when we lose a wallet or a phone, we go through. It may be a very small thing. We may experience this very common thing that we lose our wallet or a phone. Um, so it may be a very small thing, but then for the next few days we go on breaking our head. Ayo, why did I carry my phone? Ayo, why did I keep my ID card or my so much of money in my wallet, and now I've lost everything. So this is, you can imagine, we losing something this small, we break our head for so many days. So then you can imagine how much a person go through when he loses everything that he has achieved in life. You work for so many years, 80, 90 years, and then at your deathbed, you know that you're going to die, and then you realize that everything that you've achieved until now is going to be lost. So this is the pain that the people go through. So we see that when we progress in devotional service, we get closer to Krishna each and every day. And one who doesn't progress in devotional service, he is getting closer to death day by day. Krishna says, Krishna is death himself. He will come to all of us in the form of death at the end. But because, from the shloka, the 10th chapter, where Krishna says, Mrityu Sarvharashaham, I am the all devouring death. But there is a difference between death for a spiritually advanced person and a materialist. Um, you can see, you must have seen the situation where a cat is holding the neck of its kitten and the neck of a rat, so you can understand the difference. The kitten is going through a lot of love while the mother is carrying the mother cat is carrying the kitten. But you can imagine the situation of the neck of a rat. So you can differentiate between the situation of the death of a spiritualist and a materialist, a spiritually involved person. So the materialist is getting closer to death every day, and the devotee is getting closer to Krishna every day. And the devotee is eagerly waiting, Krishna, when will I be able to meet you? When will I get that opportunity to give up all this job that I have here? I'm ready to finish it immediately and ASAP come back to you. So these are the thoughts of the devotee. And how do we develop that mood? We must first develop that faith unto the Lord, that the Lord is there to protect us. And this faith cannot be purchased. It is a gift from our Lord and from our Guru. So that is how we get this faith, by surrendering, and then the spiritual master and the Lord Himself will give us this gift of faith. So if one does not have faith, then what is the one has faith, then what is the question of fearing in this material world? So, but in this world, people are all afraid of death. For example, in the situation in the during the global pandemic, where we must have heard a lot of news about the number of deaths due to the virus were lesser compared to the number of deaths by anxiety, suicide, and depression. There's a very there's an incident that happened to a known um, a devotee had told us about this incident where a couple in Karnataka itself, the wife developed the virus, and on hearing the news, the husband got a heart attack and he passed away. And the wife went on to recover from this the virus. So we see how fearful people are of death. And similarly, Arjuna also seeing his people and imagining how the trouble, the pain that they're going to go through, and imagining getting separated from them, he's developed all this. He's worried, and he didn't want to approach harm to anyone. So the same is the situation which us with us. The concept of me and mine, mama mameti, is always there. For example, you can see in the case of a fire, a building caught on fire, and the parents, there are so many parents, and they must have left their children there. The parents would first run and go to protect their own child first, and then they would, after protecting their own child, they would, if time permits or the situation permits, they would go back to protect bring out the other children. So this is the attachment to oneself and one's own people. But we see that a spiritualist, a person who's spiritually advanced, he sees everyone around as his own family, and he's there just to deliver everyone around us. And such an example we have right in front of us, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who made this ISKCON temple for us. He made a home where everyone around the world could come together and stay under it, and he never differentiated between anyone, be it black or white, rich or poor, man or woman, American or Indian. It did not matter to him. All were welcome here. And he gave Krishna consciousness profusely to everyone. There is a very famous shloka to relate to the qualities that Srila Prabhupada had. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavahastini Sunicheva Supakecha Panditaha Samadarshina. A Pandita sees everyone on an equal level, on a spiritual level. He does not differentiate between a human being and an animal, between a Brahmana or a Shudra. He sees everyone on an equal level. He does not differentiate in giving Krishna consciousness to anyone. He gives it to everyone. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He gave Krishna consciousness to everyone. So our duty is to take up this gift that we've got, this gift of Krishna consciousness, and make the best out of it. Take shelter of the Lord, take shelter of His lotus feet, or else, just like how the troubles that Arjuna went through at the start, we may easily succumb to our emotions. Our emotions will overpower us, and we will not be able to perform our duties. So Arjuna was very fearful about watching his people about to die, and that is the same thing with us. Sooner or later, all the people that we are here with, they will leave one day or the other. Just like how these, you must have seen the straws in a river. The straws would be flowing on the river. At some point, they would meet together, and then the next moment they would get separated. The same thing is with our lives. So life is just like a hotel. A lot of people come together, they sit on a table, they order different things, they eat, and then once they're done with their business, they leave. So the same thing is with us. We've come into this material world with our family members, maybe our family members or our neighbors or friends. We come together, uh, and then we fulfill our desires here, and then eventually we will leave. But one thing remains constant through all of this, and that is Krishna. And so our duty is to surrender unto Krishna. So Prabhupada says over here, um, there is no fear in transcendental realization. So when we realize our relationship with the Lord, realize ourselves, realize the Lord, who the Lord is, and realize our relationship with Him, and then understand how Krishna is our eternal friend. He's here, He's our well-wisher, and He's here just to protect us. And then we become fearless. A very famous slogan once again, Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bhuthanam Yatmam Shanta Vichati. So Krishna is our eternal well-wisher. He is our best friend. And how can such a friend of ours plan something ill for us? So, so this faith that the Lord is always there, He is helping me go back to Him, will help us overcome this fear that we may develop in this material world. We must be completely dependent on the Lord. Just like, for example, Prahlad Maharaj, he was continuously chanting the Lord's names. Continuously, the holy names of the Lord would never leave his tongue. Throughout his troubles, all the troubles that his father put through, he did not care about it. He was carefree. He would just chant the name of the Lord. He had no tension. The father was tense that, oh, my son is not developing the qualities of a demon. And on the other side, the Lord is there who is trying to protect his dear devotee from all the torture that his father was putting him through. His father put him into a room full of snakes, and put him under an elephant, and put him in the fire. So, and the Lord was there, as Paramatma, he was there in the hearts of all these entities and trying to protect his dear devotee Prahlad from getting bitten or being crushed by the elephant or being burned in the fire. The Lord changed the quality of the fire just so that his dear devotee would be protected. And so we see how the Lord would go to any extent to protect his devotees. So we have only one lesson here at the end, which is take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, glorify the Lord, and chant His name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this unified chanting of the holy names of Krishna that we are doing now, we are prioritizing that. In this moment, I will be chanting Krishna's names, and even though there will be so many other thoughts, so many other activities that I could do. But no, I'm going to keep all these thoughts, all these priorities, all these opinions of mine, all these activities aside. And at this moment, I will be here just to please the Lord. And that is Krishna consciousness. Every moment of us must be spent in glorifying the Lord and pleasing the Lord. And the advantage of this is that by taking shelter of the Lord, by glorifying the Lord, by worshiping Him, we would be able to overcome our difficulties. Anything that seemed as a big task to overcome would be made into the easiest task to overcome. And this is what the Lord does. And why? Because the Lord, when we are glorifying the Lord, when we're chanting His names, and we are taking shelter of Him, and then He is there always by our side to help us overcome our problems. So this must be our prayer that whatever our past may have been, but now at this moment, I will invest my time in pleasing the Lord. And in return, the Lord will give us guidance, the Lord will give us assurance, the Lord will give us direction, the Lord will give us strength to overcome all our ups and downs in life. All we have to do is take immediate action. Right here, right now, we must take that step to just surrender unto the Lord. Like Prabhupada says, it takes only a moment to surrender unto Krishna. So all we have to do is just surrender unto Krishna, and He will be there by our side, taking us through this journey of this life. And then once we are there at the end, we don't have to fear about death. The Lord will always be there by our side, and He will take us back to His spiritual abode. So thank you very much for your time. Please Forgive me if I've offended anyone, if I've spoken anything ill. Um, Hare Krishna, any question? Mhm. Ah. Ah. Okay, we've seen that every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we've seen Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Hatha Yoga. Every name, every chapter's name ends with yoga. Yoga's union with the Supreme. But here, that question was put across to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, how can the Vishada, which is lamentation, become a yoga? So that we understand from the situation of Arjuna, where Arjuna uses his situation of lamentation to surrender unto the Supreme, and that becomes yoga. That becomes his cause for union with the Supreme. So that is how we get the phrase Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna's lamentation, Vishada, became the cause of yoga, became the cause of his union with the Supreme Lord. So that is how that phrase came. We may see the name as setting of the army, setting of the army, but the actual name is Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the first chapter. Uh, Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Granth Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Jagat Guru Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Nand Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.